Hi, welcome to this game review. In this game we'll have a look at a typical Nimzo Indian structure and how to play it and how not to play it, though eventually, as usual, the game went into a different direction, and the player who won was the one who saw more of the tactics. So let's take a look. Started as a Nimzo Indian, and white played this move bishop g5, which is not considered a very good move, as the bishop will simply be kicked around here. Black played this b6 move, which is possible, but probably the most direct way to play in such positions is to attack on this diagonal and get g5 in as well. So for example c5, and here if d5 we get a Benoni type of structure in which this bishop is very well placed here and it can double the pawns here at any point, and this is considered quite good for black. Though b6 is also possible, e3, bishop b7, knight f3, so white isn't really playing very ambitiously. Usually white tries to castle queenside or play f3, e4, but this is of course also possible. And yeah, here black castles, which is kind of inaccurate, as black's plans include g5, then putting the rook on f8 and the king on g8 doesn't really make sense in that case. So here black should in general try to continue his initiative with g5. This is usually why the bishop shouldn't really go here. Bishop g3, knight e4 for example, queen c2. And at this point the most standard reaction is to take with the bishop, leaving control of the square on e4, and then maybe just play d6. The plan being knight d7, f5, queen f6, castle queenside, attack on the king side, and this is considered quite good for black. But black plays castles, which shows he doesn't exactly understand the main ideas of this b6 system, especially against the bishop on g5, as now playing g5 will be quite dangerous. Bishop d3, d6, and now black is trying knight d7, e5. So black doubles the pawns on c3, knight d7, rook e1, so rook e8, a bit abstract probably. Again, black should understand that white is trying to play e4. He can play g5 at this point. Here even sacrificing a piece is very interesting, but after bishop g3, knight e4, now black at least has control of the e4 square, and if white has to play knight d2 to play e4, then at least black has something to work with. And the queen can come out to f6 at some point, and black does definitely have good counterplay. Rook e8 is fine, now e5, and after d5, which is a very bad move, now black has this very good square on e5 and c5, and also the weakness on c4 is more pronounced. And this is a very bad move, d5, because it gets rid of tension that is only in white's favor. Black is not really ever threatening to take here to undouble the pawns, and white should in general try to play f4 in such positions and attack on the dark squares. So after d5, now black has reached what he really wanted to reach, but with white's help. Bishop a6 happened, and bishop a6 is a bit ambitious. It's saying that we will win this pawn, which might be the case, but for example after knight d2, here it's unclear what the bishop will be doing here. It's sometimes even better on c8 to go to d7, or to control the square on f5, which might help black to eventually play f5, or not allow a knight to go to f5 through some of the squares. But queen a4 allows knight c5, queen c2, and now black plays g5. He wants to move the queen, and now when the pieces are over here, then g5 is not as scary. White decides not to sacrifice a piece, though this is also quite interesting. The idea being rook e3, but okay, bishop g3, queen d7, the idea being here, and white didn't really understand this. He should play a4, and this is also a problem for black because a5 is threatened and black cannot answer a5 himself. He is not in time. But after h3, queen a4, black gets to exchange queens, which is a big advantage for him. At this point black is just positionally winning, and he can just go and take this pawn on c4 with knight b2 and bishop c4, exchanging the bad bishop as well, and he will also have the square on c4 for his knight, so the position is basically winning. Instead, he decided knight c5, which is also fine, and white decides to give up the pawn on e4 instead, which means black is completely winning at this point. And here, to win the game, black can just use the fact that this pawn is not there anymore and use his forward free majority on the king side. Just play f5 and squash white on the king side. But okay, rook e7, this is a bit abstract, hard to understand this move, but black goes knight d2 next move, taking another pawn. Now king g7 is important to stop these two, and after f4, white is trying to get some kind of counterplay using the pin on the e7 rook, and black obliges, but this is kind of a mistake, and black forgot that the pawn was pinned, so clearly black got a bit too complacent here. Black should just probably push f5, and white can't really do much anymore in this game. c4 is also hanging oftentimes. Probably the most simple is f6, just to keep the squares protected, and all of the pawns are on dark squares very nicely, so white's bishop is not very strong. But now white's unopposed bishop gets opened, and here the big blunder happened. Black took on c4 with the bishop, completely forgetting a check. And we cannot forget checks in chess. Checks are the most important type of moves because they force the issue, and here white had to find this move, and he did, and now white is just winning because he is a piece up. So as usual in chess, everything can change in one move if we are not careful. Of course, black could win in a variety of ways, most simply taking here and taking here, after which more pawns will also drop, f5 will happen, the rook can come, but in the game this happened, and now white is winning, though black does have 3 pawns for the piece, so the game does continue. Probably the bishop shouldn't stay on this diagonal, there's not too much to do here. But okay, here black loses another pawn, white starts attacking, and at this point the position is already hopeless. White takes a free rook, and yeah, at this point rook e8 could kind of still play. But at this point we're down a rook. We do have 2 pawns, 2 connected passed pawns potentially, but it shouldn't be enough. After king g6, the rest of the game wasn't very interesting, so it all just came down to one blunder, and this just goes to show how important it is to study tactics, to keep solving puzzles every single day, to avoid such mistakes. Of course, we can't never blunder, but the more we study and the more we practice, the less likely we are to blunder.